start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be part of it.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
You want that out in the air so that people can hear it.
Because sunlight is the best disinfectant.
When you don't live in the White House, sunlight's the best disinfectant.
Sunlight's the best disinfectant with these sort of...
It is, and...
Don't you love talking heads telling you to listen to them? Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and its many brothers, including publicity is the moral disinfectant, have been some of the favoured phrases of journalists and newspapermen for 100 years now. In the 21st century, thinkers from the intellectual dark web have picked up on them too, and love to repeat them. The general metaphor was first put down by the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson all the way back in 1860. Variations took time to catch on, but today you can't go a week without hearing some pundit uttering the phrase. In fact, you just have, but never mind. To criticise a trend, it is unfortunate but often necessary to first describe it. I would not wish anyone to abdicate their responsibility on behalf of squeamishness. As you can probably already guess, I'm not a fan of this idea, especially in light of modern media, and that is the issue when one deeply considers the idea, rather than merely parroting it as a platitude. I'm sure at one time or another, everyone watching this video, and I include myself in this generalization, has nodded along to the idea of the free market of ideas. But this idea depends firstly on all ideas being equal to the passions of the mob. The vox populi buy papers, and they are written for the vox populi. If you were a politician and wanted to whip up a crowd, would you propose something sensible, something reasonable, something which is likely to have a lesser emotional resonance? Perhaps a reorganisation of the tax brackets? No. In a popularity contest, it would be better to say something which is likely to be more ridiculous, more difficult to achieve, and sometimes even pointless, so long as it sounds appealing, bold, courageous, attractive to the wants and prejudices of the mob, regardless of its real use. This is no less true for thought leaders, though I despise that word, than it is for politicians. It is easier to sell things which seem easier and appear more important than it is to sell things which are hard and are truly important. Rarely do the wants of a mob and the needs of a country truly align. John Lennon had a much simpler time propagandizing than Mary Whitehouse. Secondly, it is today the case that the non-governing elite who make up much of the media class have also no desire to be reasonable and sensible. In part, they merely want to sell their product, but as a small minority, they are in close enough union that they have aims of their own, which, as you probably already know, are forged mostly in a university context, amongst others. Any light they spread upon a story, an idea, a wisp of yarn, is therefore poisoned. It is a corrupt light, emanating from a class so decadent they would make Elagabalus blush. They will spin what they please, they will ignore what they dislike, they will crucify what they hate. Jordan Peterson himself should understand this by now, considering the number of hit pieces written against him. On the other hand, take the example of one Mr. George Takei.
Oh my goodness, you've got such a beautiful...
Oh dear.
It's some people that are kind of, skittish. Right. Or maybe, afraid. And you're trying to persuade
But,
Do we need to call the police?
What is he saying, Howard?
What are you saying, George? In other words, they were but you never held a job over someone if they didn't.
no, I never did that.
Oh,
No.
I see.
Were these
that's what
work
this is all
situations,
about. It's not about sex. It's about power.
though? Right.
I see.
It's about power.
But you didn't do this grabbing at work.
Oh, no, it wasn't at work.
Oh, good.
It was either in my home.
Oh,
They
okay.
came to my home.
Well, that was an
Right.
open invitation.
So what do you mean? Like there'd be some guy who was hesitating to have sex with you, and then you gave him a gentle squeeze on the or something?
More than a gentle. But that didn't involve power
I see.
over the other. And my tits. And the Howard, or the Trump guy, that's about power.
I see.
And this is a big issue today.
I'm sorry I had to play that. It was a recording of the Howard Stern show back in 2017, in which George Takei makes some rather queer statements regarding his past sexual history. At the time, the controversy about the old Donald Trump recording was raging. When a few news media outlets picked this up, Takei retreated to the "it was only a joke" excuse, and this whole interaction fell down the memory hole. Why didn't the media push him further, especially regarding his claim that no power dynamics were involved? Because the media likes George Takei. Compare this to Milo Yiannopoulos, who was obliterated in the same year for claiming that certain 13-year-olds could consent to sexual intercourse. Even worse, this dialogue was quickly found from the Howard Stern show back in 2010.
George, where did you go to summer camp?
At Lake Arrowhead in Southern California.
How old were you at the time?
I was 13 there.
And you, you blew your counselor?
No, I was very young.
Yes.
And
13 is young.
And
yes.
he was an older teenager. He was a camp counselor.
19, would you say?
He was about 18 or 19, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was experienced.
Yes.
And we each had cabins, and he was the counselor in my cabin.
He could tell that you were a gay man? Was it evident at 13?
No, it wasn't.
No.
But
were you sure at that point you were gay?
No, I was not sure.
Right. And how did he seduce you?
Well, he started touching me, and
wait a minute. Did he came into your cabin?
Yes.
You two were alone?
Yes.
He sits down next to you on the bed?
Yes.
How were you alone at summer camp?
We were in the cabin.
And where were the boys? Where were the other boys?
They were off hiking or something, or
doing
something was
little
happening.
boy things.
Somehow you managed to stay behind.
Yes.
Do you think subconsciously you stayed behind because you wanted to be alone with him?
No. There was some kind of reason why I had to be there, and he was.
You were on your period?
He was going to teach me something.
Oh, right. Yes, he was.
And you sat there, and he touched you, and did you feel? Were you molested in a sense because you were 13?
No, because I was kind of. I thought he was pretty attractive.
What happened after this was found? Nothing. Yiannopoulos might have been more politically present at the time, but Takei is the bigger household name. And in 2017, the Harvey Weinstein saga erupted, yet nothing at all happened. It could have been big news. Mr. Sulu promotes paedophilia could have been 100 headlines, sold thousands, millions of papers. Why didn't they run with it to any great extent? Because it wasn't to the favour of the journalistic class. It would have been politically damaging to attack their ally, so they ignored it. Light was indeed shone on George Takei. The light was quickly extinguished. Apparently Mr. Sulu is resistant to sunlight. How can we expect anything else? Any dialogue controlled by the whims of mobs and the squalid poisons of subversive ideologies and hostile ethnic groups is bound to be vile and corrupt. The media are an aristocracy without taste. They wield a microscope of madness.